Hey, what's up everyone, David here. Welcome to a new video. Today we're trying something a bit new. I've been thinking about making this video for 2 weeks now. Actually, I've been wanting to do this video since Sony officially confirmed that they're shutting down the stores. They're shutting down their virtual digital stores on the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Portable, and also the PS Vita. So those 3 digital stores are going away. The first one being the PlayStation Portable. Of course, there's already a couple of features that are not there from my understanding on the store, but it's officially shutting down on July 2nd. Now when it comes to the PS3 and the Vita, the stores are closing down on August 27th. I think I want to talk today, actually I know I want to talk today about the games from Sega and Atlus that I think you guys should pick up before the store closes down. Now the reason why I think you should take advantage from those stores is that actually, in the list of games that I have right here, which I did write everything down, and we're going to talk about all of that today, there's a lot of them which physically are super expensive. And I checked out the prices on the store, they're actually pretty cheap. So you can save money first of all if you don't care about physical games like I do. You can buy them digitally and you'll save a ton of money. Plus, there's still a ton of good games on those stores that I think you guys should check out from Atlus and Sega. I have big lists when it comes to those 3 systems, so let's jump right into it, starting with the PlayStation Portable. Now when it comes to the PSP, I have 3 games in mind that I absolutely want to mention, but those 3 games are actually available on the PS Vita. So for those 3 games that I'm about to mention first, if you own a Vita, I recommend playing them on the Vita. They're basically the same version, but the Vita's has a better screen, more slick, all of that, so it's just a better system overall. But if you just own a PSP and not a Vita, it's a perfectly viable option to buy those 3 games on the PSP too, of course. And those 3 games are getting extremely expensive and they're available on the store, so go ahead and buy them if you own a PSP and a Vita. So my first pick is, of course, Persona 1, that being a remake of the first game, which we did get in the West, being Revelations Persona on the PlayStation 1. This one has a couple of improvements, quality of life improvements, I would say, so definitely a good version of the game. Now, of course, the soundtrack is what comes up most of the time, not as good as the original, but other than that, still a very, very, very good game. So I highly recommend it. Super expensive on the physical side, so you own a Vita and a PSP, you're at the right place. Same thing for those 2 other games that I'm about to mention. Persona 2 Innocent Sin, which is the first game in the Persona 2 duology of games, and this one is available on the PSP. Super good port. Unlike the first installment in the Persona series, this one you get the ability to toggle between the original soundtrack and the remastered, or the new soundtrack as they say. So definitely a good game, way better than Persona 1 in my opinion, so this is the way to go. This was never localized on the PlayStation 1 for whatever reason, so definitely a good buy on the digital stores. Plus this one's also very expensive. So speaking of expensive, the most expensive out of the 3 is actually Persona 3 Portable. Most people prefer FES on the PS2. I have a preference for this one for multiple reasons, but that's a subject for another video. I don't want to start a debate or anything. Good game overall. I always diss on Persona 3, but it's not a bad game. I just don't think it's as good as, you know, Persona 2, for example. So great game. Neo Persona is beloved by many, and this is why this game is worth over $200 now, complete in box like this. So still available in the stores. Highly recommend it. It's a great version of Persona 3. Now those 3 games are on PSP, but they're also available on the Vita store and they're pretty cheap. So I highly recommend picking them up right there. So that was the 3 games that I wanted to mention first when it comes to the PSP. Now I needed to mention one game. I'm not too familiar with the Phantasy Star series, but I've heard a lot of good things about Phantasy Star Portable 2, which is available on PSP. Can't tell you much except that it's a good game and it's available on PSP, so you should check it out. I don't know if this one's available on the Vita store or not, unfortunately. Now when it comes to the Vita, I have a decent sized list here, so let's jump right in. The first game that I recommend is Jet Set Radio. This game is $13 Canadian, so that's like roughly $8 US, super cheap. It is a good classic Dreamcast game that's available on Vita, and it's a good port, so definitely a good game that you should check out. The next game on my list is a game that if you own a Vita And if you're a subscriber of this channel, I'm 9 out of 10 of you guys will own this one. It is, of course, Persona 4 Golden. Good game, re-release of Persona 4, which is a fantastic game. Good re-release in my opinion, a lot of good additions. Love the new graphics, love everything around it. It's a very good port. It's the game that made me and a lot of other people buy a Vita, so definitely a game that you should buy. Now, of course, it is kind of expensive physically. Digitally, it's not too bad, but it's also available on Steam, which makes it the preferred version for most people with mods and the new graphics and all of that. So a lot of people will buy it on Steam, but if you want to play your games portably like I do love to do, well, P4G, Vita, great game to buy. Now, speaking of Persona 4, another game that's also available on Vita is Persona 4 Dancing All Night. Great game overall. I'm not the biggest rhythm fan in the world, rhythm games. It was not my personal favorite spin-off or anything like that, but it's still a good game, and I know a lot of people who hold this game very close to their heart. Now, this game I highly recommend picking up because it's also available on PS4, but only if you buy the super shitty collector's edition that they have with P3D and P5D. You get a digital code for P4D, so if you want a physical copy, it's there on Vita. And if you want to just play the game portably, it's also available on the shop, which you can buy before everything closes down. Now, the next game on my list is a game that's awesome. Honestly, it's a very good game. And this game is made by Vanillaware. Awesome developer, and Atlus published a couple of their games, including the recent game 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which I really like. Now, they also released Dragon's Crown on PS Vita. This game also came out on PS3 and on PS4. And it's a very good game, very fun beat 'em up, great art style as always. It's Vanillaware, great music, all of that. So the Vita port, I own it. That's one game that I own digitally. I don't have the physical copy. It's a good game. It plays perfectly fine on Vita, it looks great, and it's a great version of the game. Now, this game is worth $30 on the digital store, Canadian, so that's like 20 bucks US. Very cheap, good game. If you don't want a PS3, if you don't want a PS4, because that was also released on PS4, it's a great version of the game. If you want to play it portably, it's the way to go. So, highly recommend Dragon's Crown on the PS Vita. Now, another game that's super cool is Odin Sphere. Odin Sphere is another game by Vanillaware, and it's a very good version of Odin Sphere, which is also available on PS4. Once again, same thing as Dragon's Crown, highly recommended. If you want to play it on the go, it's the way to go. That was unintended. Another game that I want to mention, which is one of the games that I want to own physically. I do not own it physically. It's not a recommendation from me. I've heard various different people saying that it's a very good game, actually a hidden gem on PS3 and PS Vita. So this game you can buy on both stores right now. It looks really good. I don't know if I can recommend it because I never played it, but the physical copy of this game is worth over $40 on Vita and also on PS3. This game being Lost Dimension. This game was published by Atlus and it looks really good. Never played it, but if you want to try something new, it's probably a game that you should consider for sure. Now, the next 3 games that I want to mention, actually one series of games and 2 games I want to mention, those are kind of like honorable mentions. I've never played them, but I've heard a ton of good things about all of them, so that's why I'm recommending them right now. The first one being Valkyria Revolution. I didn't play this installment in the Valkyria Chronicles series, but I do love this series. I played the first installment in the series, so I assume this one's also pretty cool, and it's available on Vita. Next up is the Hatsune Miku series. There's a lot of games in this series that's available on Vita. Once again, rhythm games, not really my thing. The reason why I bought P4D is because it's Persona and I still wanted to play it and I love the music and all. Hatsune Miku, not for me, but I've heard a ton of good things from rhythm game fans, so it's a recommendation in my book. Phantasy Star Online 2 is also a game that I know a couple of people really like. This game has a very invested fan base, so if you're into Phantasy Star, it's definitely a game that you should pick up. Now, on PS3, I have a pretty big list, actually. I'm a big fan of the PlayStation 3. The PS3 is a console that has a lot of games that I like, but not a lot of games that are like in my top 10 games of all time. Like a lot of 8 out of 10s for me on the PS3, which is not a bad thing. And there's a lot of games that are available on the digital store that you should 100% buy for various different reasons. So let's look at that right away. Now the first game that I want to mention is kind of like a meme game, but it's still a game that I think is just pure fun, and it's Yakuza Dead Souls. This game being, of course, a spin-off in the Yakuza series, one of the only spin-offs that we got in the West, if not the only. I think it might be the only spin-off that we got in the West, but I'm not too sure, so please don't quote me on that, or you can correct me in the comment sections. But it's a game that I think is super fun. And this one, like, probably sold very poorly in the West, I would assume, because it's super expensive. It's one of the most expensive game on the PS3 at the moment. It's worth over, it surprised me, but it's worth over $60 or something, complete inbox like this. So yeah, a great game that you should absolutely check out. I loved it. It's cool. Just don't expect the same game as a regular Yakuza game. Now, speaking of Yakuza game, the one game that you have to buy, like you have to buy, you should buy Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 4, because those games are great. Love the Yakuza series. All the games are great. But the one game that you should 100% buy is Yakuza 5, simply because Yakuza 5 didn't get a physical version in the West. This game that I'm holding right now is actually a custom empty case that was given away in the Day 1 edition of the Yakuza Remastered Collection on PS4. This is just an empty case that they gave us in the West because it was never released on PS3, so basically to complete our physical collection. And really cool, love that they did this. But Yakuza 5 is not available physically on PS3, so you should 100% get this version of the game if you don't own a PS4, and if you want to play Yakuza 5, it's the only way to do it. So after the store closes, cannot play Yakuza 5 if you don't own a PS4 in the West. So 100% recommend that one alongside Yakuza 3 and 4. This trilogy of games is awesome, so check them out. I briefly talked about this game, but Valkyria Chronicles, this is a game that's on PS3. Physical copy is pretty cheap. On the store, it's also pretty cheap. Great game. It's actually a strategy RPG. Very unique with its mechanics. So great game. That was also published and developed by Sega. So highly recommend it. Love the art style for this one. The music, the story, everything's good about this one. I kind of fell off of this series after this one. I didn't play the other ones, and I don't know why, because I really enjoyed that one. So Valkyria Chronicles, check it out. Now this game is Persona 4 Arena, and this is also includes Ultimax. Those two games, they're very expensive physically. Well, they're kind of expensive physically. They're expensive for a PS3 game. PS3 games are not too expensive. Now they rose up in price because of course, the announcement that the store's closing down. But it's one of the higher ups when it comes to prices on PS3, and this is a very good game developed in collaboration by Atlus and Arc System Works, which is like they're like legends of fighting games nowadays. So definitely a very good game. You should also, whether you own Ultimax or Arena, you should absolutely check out the DLCs, because there's a lot of DLCs for those games, and once the store closes down, they're done. So again, if you guys are subscribed to the channel, you might own those games already. If you don't, you should buy them on the store. But I don't know if all of you guys own the DLC, so there's DLC for this game, and it's only available if you download them on the store before it shuts down. So Arena and Ultimax and its DLC is my recommendation. Now, I have a ton of other games that you should buy on the PlayStation 3 store, because those games are not available physically on the PS3 because they're PS2 games. I'm gonna start with Persona 4. Persona 4, PS2 game that was re-released on PS3. It's basically the same exact version. It's a direct port. If you want to play P4 through HDMI, it's the way to do it. If you don't have a backwards compatible PS3, you should download it on the store and play it. Now, the one thing with Persona 4 is that I assume most people have a PC that can run P4G. So if you do, you should probably buy the version on PC. There's no real reason to buy P4 on PS3. But if you don't own a PS2, you don't own a backwards compatible PS3, and you don't have a PC that can run this game, or you don't want to play on PC, I think P4 on PS3 is a good pick. So that's why I put it in my list. Small recommendation, but there's definitely better ways to play P3. Now, speaking of better ways to play a game, Persona 3, that's FES, which is available on PS3 as well on the store. I actually bought this one on PS3. This is where I replayed it for the second time when it comes to Persona 3. If you prefer FES over portable, it's the way to go. This game is, unlike P4G, has not been re-released, so you should probably buy it on the PS3 store if you want to play FES. Now, I do think that Atlus is going to re-release P3 on Steam this year, and I actually think they're gonna re-release it in 2 months from the recording of this video. You should check out my last video on the channel if you want to learn more about that, but I do think P3 is coming to Steam recently, that being P3 FES, with a couple of quality of life improvements from portable probably, but that's all just rumors, that's all just assumption for now, so be aware of that. There's really no official confirmation, and if you really want to make sure that you have a way to play P3 FES officially, you can download it from the PS Store online digitally on PlayStation 3. Now, next up on my list is a game that you should absolutely buy. It's actually a duology of games that you should absolutely buy, those being Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Those games you should really buy because they're awesome. They're just really good. And same reason as the games that I just talked about, there's no other way to play them today than the PS3 port of the PS2 game. Ooh, sorry about that. There's no other way to play this game in 2021 than owning a PlayStation 2 and playing it physically or downloading it on the PlayStation 3. It was never re-released other than that, so you should definitely pick those up, and they're cheap on the store too, so do yourselves a favor, pick up Digital Devil Saga 1 and 2. Amazing games, definitely check them out. Now, next up is Smt3 Nocturne. Nocturne, I hesitated to put it on the list simply because of the HD remastered, which is coming out in a month after this video gets live. So in a month you'll be able to play Nocturne on PlayStation 4, PC, and Switch. So if you want to play Nocturne, that would be my suggestion. Now, some people don't like the new content in the remastered. I think most people say it's just lackluster, not that it's bad new content. But if for whatever reason you don't want to pay like 50 bucks for the remaster, you don't want to wait, you want to play it right now, Nocturne on PS3 is cheap. Go ahead and pick it up. Another game that I want to mention is a game that I loved, and a game that's not talked about enough in my opinion, and that game being 3D Dot Game Heroes. That's a game published by Atlus, which is great. It's actually a Zelda 1 clone in a way. It plays in the same way. Story is obviously different, art style, all of that is very unique and very different. It looks great, and that's a game that's a hidden gem on the PlayStation 3. Not a lot of people played it, not a lot of people bought it, so it's super expensive actually on the PlayStation 3 if you want to find a physical copy. So it's still available on the digital store, so you should absolutely pick it up there if it's the type of game that interests you. Now, my final pick, and probably the most important pick out of the PlayStation 3's library in my opinion, two games that are available on the PlayStation Store digitally that are super hard to come by physically, and that it's not easy to play those recently, is Devil Summoner, actually the Raido Kuzunoa game. That's number 2. There's also the Soulless Army, which is number 1. Those games are really expensive on the PlayStation 2, like we're talking over $100 each physically. So if you want them physical, you'll have to pay a pretty penny. Now, on the other hand, they're super cheap on the PlayStation 3 store, so you should probably pick them up on the PlayStation 3 store before it shuts down. Now, those games, unlike Digital Devil Saga, in my opinion, they don't really have a big chance of getting re-released because of the type of game that it is and the sales that they got initially in the West. I don't really think they're gonna get the Nocturne treatment. Digital Devil Saga makes more sense, and Persona 3 FES even more. Raido, don't think they're coming back anytime soon, so if you definitely don't want to pay the price, the physical price, pick them up on the PlayStation 3. They're probably the most important picks out of this whole list in my opinion. Now, this is it for this video, guys. I gotta say, Sega and Atlus really delivered on those 3 systems. Great library of games on PlayStation 3. Great library on Vita, and also decent little library on the PlayStation Portable. So love those 3 systems. You should absolutely check out the games that I mentioned today. I think I have a lot of good picks. I obviously omitted a lot of Sega and Atlus games, so if there's some games that I didn't mention, maybe I forgot about them, or maybe I just thought of a reason why I don't think they're a great pick for this list. For example, I didn't include Catherine, even if Catherine is like my top 10 of games of all time, simply because it's accessible on other systems that are better and the better version of the game, in my opinion. So that's why I didn't include it. And there's other games like Puyo Puyo Tetris, which is beloved. It's just not my thing, so it's not in my recommended list. But I'm definitely curious to hear if I missed anything. Drop a comment below and let me know what's you guys' picks. What would you like? What would you recommend someone to pick up on those stores? Let's talk about that in the comment sections below. If you like the recommendations, if you like the video, drop a like. It helps a lot. And as always, thank you so much for watching. We will see you in the next one. Bye.